Good evening and welcome to the Chris Salcedo Show on Newsmax TV. I had a bit of an epiphany over the weekend about the nature of the enemies we face here in the United States. By we, I mean all of us who are proud to be American, proud of our nation, proud of our Constitution, and those of us who believe that even though our nation isn't perfect, it is the last best hope for mankind on this planet. By our enemies, I mean those on the political left who have sworn to destroy our country. Those who have been and will continue to lie about our nation in an effort to convince a majority that the United States is no longer worth defending. Socialist-democrats, they no longer want to be Americans. That's the troubling conclusion we have reached in tonight's preamble. The leaders of the socialists in our society have been busy, with the aid of the corrupt and unfair press, trash-talking the United States, our Constitution, and our laws. They've also shown their disdain and lack of respect for our nation and our people by ignoring those laws whenever it suits them. One of the most glowing examples of criminal behavior is Joe Biden and his political party's ignoring of federal immigration law. One of the Salcedo Show axioms states that nothing good comes from a nation that won't follow its own laws. That axiom embodies the current state of affairs we find ourselves in, as our nation is on pace to allow 8 to 10 million illegal aliens into our country from all over the globe. Even though these illegal aliens don't have a right to come here illegally, Joe Biden and his minions simply ignore that fact and the will of a majority, an overwhelming majority of Americans. Biden's lawlessness has come at a steep price for both aliens and Americans alike. According to government officials, Biden's open borders have contributed to a massive spike in China virus cases all over our country, including the much talked about Delta variant. Biden has been busy redistributing China virus cases to unknown destinations within the United States, along with those illegal aliens. Aside from the public health crises he has created, Biden has ushered in a humanitarian crisis along the border. Rapes among illegal alien women and children are common, courtesy of those ruthless narco-terrorists and those human traffickers. Sexual assaults among children are also being reported in Biden's detention facilities, facilities that see human beings forced to live in inhuman conditions. Incidentally, Biden, Harris, and the Socialist-democrats have been responsible for enriching the aforementioned narco-terrorists and human traffickers. Under Biden, business is good for lawbreakers. But Biden, Pelosi, and Schumer are also facilitating danger for our own citizens. According to Panama's Minister of Foreign Affairs, Erica Munoz, terrorists are blending with illegal aliens, entering Panama in an effort to gain access to the United States. This is the third crisis Biden has created at the border, a national security crisis. Biden and his socialists have implemented a policy that increases the likelihood of a terrorist attack that could kill an untold number of Americans. Question: if a political party implements policies that harm the people of a nation, are those the actions of a political party that loves that country? Of course, the answer is a resounding no. Socialist-democrats hate the United States, and we see evidence of that in other areas, apart from the multiple border crises. Senator Bernie Sanders, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Rashida M.F. Tlaib, Cori Bush, Ayanna Pressley, Ilhan Omar, and other leaders of the Socialist-Democrat Party in the Marxist movement have been preaching their hatred of America and their love for totalitarianism. From working to deny you and your family your rights of self-defense, to critical race theory, to supporting the enslavement and subjugation of entire populations under communist dictatorships, the modern-day luminaries of the Democrat Socialist Party have identified the one obstacle that remains in their path to a dark and joyless future for humanity: the United States and our Constitution. Despite the fact that handguns make up the vast majority of gun crime in mostly Democrat-run cities, the extremist left is pushing for the ban of semi-automatic rifles. Now, in case you're wondering if this is just simply a case of clueless liberals who keep missing the proverbial target, let me assure you that it's no accident that socialists are targeting weapons that are not and have never been major drivers of gun crime. Socialists see reliable weapons like the AR-15 as a major deterrent to their efforts to impose control over our population. Meanwhile, like the border, it is socialist policies that enable criminals and disadvantaged law-abiding citizens. This is what has led to an historic crime wave gripping Joe Biden's America. Left-wing DAs, they refuse to prosecute criminals, but the socialist hatred of our people goes far deeper than that. Take, for example, this piece of garbage. Hypocrite Congresswoman Cori Bush. She has spent $70,000 on private security to guard her worthless rear end. Meanwhile, this statist is working to defund protection for you and your family. Cori Bush, like other anti-American leftists, seek to defund our nation's police. This woman is cut from the very same cloth as Mao, Stalin, Castro, and other statists who think they are deserving of protection, and the rest of us can go to hell. Most of us agree that her behavior and advocacy is common among many people in the world. We can also agree that nothing Cori Bush stands for is American. But there are signs of hope. In the midst of Biden's wave of crime, social unrest, calls to defund the police, political division, and pandemic lockdowns, the United States is seeing a surge of anti-American, anti-gun Americans becoming first-time gun buyers. Apparently, some left-wing parents love their families more than they love delivering political victories for Democrat socialists. A similar awakening is happening among center-left parents who are watching their children being attacked by violent left-wing extremists in the government-run schools. On Friday, we brought you the story of Michelle Leet. This anti-American fool was vice president of training at the Virginia State PTA, vice president of communications for the Fairfax County PTA. She's also first vice president of the Fairfax County NAACP, the National Association for the Advancement of Progressive Colored People. Michelle Leet is also a federal employee. Here she is showing all of America what it is to be a member of Joe Biden's anti-American Democrat Party in 2021.
Let's deny this off-key band of people that are anti-education, anti-teacher, anti-equity. Let them die.
She was calling for the death of parents who oppose the teaching of the Marxist hate whitey program, critical race theory, in the government-run schools. Now, over the weekend, Virginia PTA, they announced that Michelle Leet had resigned from their organization. But it seems that she still is a member of the NAACP and is still a federal employee in Joe Biden's government. Apparently, the NAACP and Joe Biden support her calling for the death of her political opponents. Sadly, left-wingers are no stranger to using violence to get their way. I agree that violence is the way of the modern Democrat Socialist Party. Any examination of the riots over the last year and a half prove as much. But left-wing violence is not American. And that leads us to slavery. To this day, the bulk of the Socialist-Democrat Party, including their lost and confused leader, Joe Biden, are either directly supportive of or silent on the human rights abuses of communist China. Not only is China responsible for the worldwide pandemic that has claimed over 600,000 American lives, China also trounces on individual rights, freedom of speech, and impoverishes their people. China is also a slave state, dehumanizing 3 million Uyghurs like beasts of burden. Now, in case you're tempted to think that this is an isolated incident among the Socialist Democrat Party, they and their militants have come out in support of totalitarians much closer to home. Last week, we told you how the Marxist Black Lives Matter organization, their movement, had come out in support of the enslavement of an entire nation of Hispanics in Cuba. BLM, which supporters include many U.S. corporations and sports franchises, came out in support of the inhuman communist Castro regime and their iron-fisted control over Cubans under the oppressive curtain of communism. Now, the leader of Socialist Democrats in the House, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, has come out in favor of allowing the communist regime to be even better funded to keep their boot on the throats of the Cuban people. While pretending to stand in solidarity with the Cuban people, AOC called the U.S. embargo against butchers in Cuba's government, quote, absurdly cruel. This, talking out of both sides of her mouth, either displays colossal ignorance or typical left-wing doublespeak. Either way, I know many Democrats are sympathetic to dictators. There are many people like that all over the world. None of them are real Americans. Our nation is in chaos right now. The reasons go far beyond the boob who sits in the Oval Office. An alarming number in the left-wing party no longer hold reverence for our founding documents, our proud traditions, or the freedom and prosperity our people have enjoyed over the centuries. by their actions. They have demonstrated they no longer wish to be Americans. How can they love America when they spend every waking hour falsely bashing her and tearing her down? These Marxist-Leninists openly admit that they seek to fundamentally transform America into something else. Some want us to mirror the mediocrity of Europe. Others want our government, in tandem with mega corporations, to mirror totalitarian regimes in China, Russia, Cuba, and elsewhere. This is why these powerful few are in conflict with the vast majority of us independents, Republicans, and conservatives. We still want to be Americans. Left-wing extremists, they don't. They want to change America, and not for the better. But patriots have seen past the liberal lies about our nation, and we believe our people and our nation are worth saving. So to all of you socialists in media, the Socialist-Democrat Party, and you treasonous militants in BLM and Antifa, we say this: if you want to live in misery, lawlessness, totalitarian rule, and poverty, there are plenty of nations around the world you can choose from. Go to those places and leave us in peace. You can't steal our children's future. You can't have America.
Hey, I'm Rob Finnerty. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please join the conversation in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe, too. Hit the bell icon to be alerted to breaking news. And remember, there's a whole lot more on Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news network. Newsmax TV, we're real news for real people.